Hi, everyone, and welcome back to my channel. I'm Jill Samter, and I am beyond thrilled to have I want to call her one of my favorite people in the carnivore and keto world. Sally K. Norton is back on with me, and if you have not watched our original video interview, I think it was about 3 weeks ago, go back and watch it. It has a ton of information that is going to unlock a lot of important keys for you. Last week, I did a review on her cookbook. We're going to talk a little bit about that today, but we're also going to dive into some of the topics that we started to bring up last week, and a lot of the questions that you guys have asked me, we're going to address those today, and I might even share a little bit about a personal oxalate dumping that I've had over the last couple of days as we go on. So, Sally, thank you so much for being back on the channel and sharing your heart with everybody. I just can't even thank you enough.
Hi, Jill. It's so great. You know, you get a prize for being the first person to schedule a second interview with a break in between where we could keep processing the conversation. And this is ideal because this is an unfolding discovery, so to speak, about how oxalate can affect our health. And it's very much an unfolding experience that takes years. And so coming back around again and again really helps us understand it a lot better. So you're the first person to do that. That's fantastic.
Oh, well, there you go. I think this topic is so important that I think it needs to keep being addressed. I think that we're going to have to come back again after this because there are so many pieces to unfold. And what I'm hearing from everybody in our age group, Sally, I actually have goosebumps just bringing it up. What I hear from all the women in this community is they never heard about oxalates before. They didn't realize that something that they were eating could hurt them so much. They knew, like a lot of them know, the standard American diet and all the processed food can make them sick, but they had no idea that the fruits and the vegetables and the grains and the beans could make them sick. So it's been a huge wake up to a lot of people. And some feel like I did when I first heard you speaking about it. They're angry they didn't know. They're sad they didn't know. They're disappointed their doctors never said, what are you eating? They're disappointed that when they tried keto, that it never really touched what they were going through. So that's where I feel like we need to carry it from what you and I touched on last time to let's even dive in a little bit more to say, here's the freedom that you're looking for, and don't feel strange when you have all these crazy symptoms because there is a reason that you're having them.
There's a reason you're having them. Your doctor or your friends or even your husband might tell you it's all in your head, but that's not true. And that's my major message. You know, if something's really going on with your health, it's real. Don't let anyone tell you it's not real. And the emotions you talk about, you know, the frustration, the anger, the sadness, the processing, that is huge. It's like really getting hit with the death or just something strange out of the blue that hits you in the side of the head like a plank of wood. And you can go through layers of grieving and processing emotionally. So I'm glad you mentioned that because there's a lot of room for exploration about that and sharing experiences about that. And the other thing I might say in reaction to what you just said is you mentioned various foods that can get us sick that we trust. And one of the ones I think you skipped over by mistake was nuts.
Oh, nuts and seeds.
The nuts and seeds are like top of the list. Like we've gone nuts over nuts and it's making us nuts. There's a lot of neurological symptoms that come along with the oxalate that's delivered by the nuts. And I've had people who used to have mood problems who find they feel much more stable and much more like themselves again. And their sleep is better and all kinds of neurological things get better. So nuts will make you nuts thanks to the oxalate.
And especially in the keto world, I think when people go from paleo to keto and they make that shift, they end up eating way more nuts than they ever did before because they hear that healthy fats are good for them. And what's a great thing to carry around with you that's healthy fats? Nuts and seeds. So forget about the almond flour, the almond flour, the almond milks. They're just walking around with nuts and seeds all day.
It's really true. I have people who pack them in their purses and leave them in their cars and snack on them all day. Either the kind of more some people are comfortable with junk foods, and for them it's peanut M&Ms or something like that. And then there's people who are being super careful and getting organic and this and that, and maybe even trying to get them sprouted or something. But none of that's fixing the oxalate problem. It's not about whether there was pesticides on them or not. Although, theoretically in botany, the more stressed a plant is, the higher the oxalate content in it. And sometimes not using pesticides increases the stress and the growing conditions, and might even the organic, although we don't have a lot of studies to be able to say this with confidence, we know theoretically that when the plants are stressed with a lot of mold or insect pressure or weather problems or drought or whatever, they are more likely to produce more oxalate, especially with insect pressure. And so herbicides and pesticides, the anti-insect chemicals might even lower stress on a plant. So theoretically, organic is not only not helpful in terms of oxalate exposure, but it might even be worse. We don't know.
But it's, when you think about that, it's frustrating, because how many years were you and I both eating the nuts and the seeds and trying to get the healthy fats and thinking that we were doing, and I sprouted them sometimes and thinking that was even better. And that's releasing more of the mycotoxins and all these things. And, it's making it supposedly easier for your belly to digest. I think it can make it worse. So it's just been an interesting thing.
Oxalate, that could be, because the reason that the seeds have the calcium oxalate in them is that it's a way of pantering, saving, storing calcium, because the plant needs it at germination time. So the calcium can help the enzymes produce amino acids, and you grow from a seed into a plant. That process liberates the calcium and then liberates the oxalate. So you have oxalate ions. That's the stuff you absorb. So if you change it from calcium oxalate to calcium plus oxalate ions, then you've increased the soluble oxalate, you've increased the absorbability, the bioavailability, and more of it's going to get absorbed into the bloodstream because of sprouting, in theory. And we haven't done enough tests to say to what degree that's true, and under what conditions, and with what kind of nuts and seeds. But the few tests that have been done, the majority of nuts and seeds, the soluble oxalate, or just the oxalate that's measured, goes higher.
Wow. I hope everybody understands how important that is for your health. That's not just a little bit of information. That's a lot to understand. I think the other thing that people didn't realize was a lot of female organs and a lot of female issues are caused from a high oxalate diet, or the way that they damage those organs. Not just how it can damage your thyroid, not just how it can hurt your endocrine system, but it really affects, women didn't realize that it can cause PCOS. They didn't realize that it can give them menstrual cycle issues. And I was a person who used to bleed 14 to 21 days a month. So when I pull back and look that that's not normal, PMS is not normal.
Right.
That's what I'm hearing from a lot of the women. That's why they're struggling with menopause. And that's why you struggle with these crazy, crazy hot flashes, ladies, because your body from your diet is struggling, because the organs and your female reproductive organs can take a huge hit from the amount of oxalates you have in your body.
Yeah, in fact, hot flashes are a very common symptom after you quit eating the oxalate, that the oxalate's moving around and getting cleared out. And so we see hot flashes as a side effect of your body trying to clear out oxalate. So that's really interesting. For me, it's very interesting because some female problems are really obvious, like PMS and short cycles and cramping and just moodiness and all the stuff that goes with that. For me, I didn't have that. I had really easy 28 and a half to 29 day cycles that didn't get PMSy and didn't really bother me. I'd have maybe a day of being uncomfortable, but nothing really to worry about. And I didn't know I had endometriosis. By the time things were so bad that I was bleeding these giant clots and stuck in the bathroom, I spent one entire day stuck in the bathroom bleeding so bad I was just crying the whole day. And I'm not a crier. I mean, it got so bad I couldn't leave the toilet. I was just it was like I was a war victim or something. I was bleeding. And not long later I was having a hysterectomy with a total abdominal cut. So they would just open me up and could see inside, and they saw loose blood in the pelvic cavity. They saw endometrial scarring on the colon. the ovaries were both such terrible shape that we were communicating a bit during surgery because I had epidural, and we were trying to not lose the ovaries, but they all had, everything had to go. Everything was trash. The nurses are like, whoa, all that needed to come out. I did not even know I had endometriosis. I had silent endometriosis. I had silent decay of my ovaries. You know, but it did start to fall apart when I got, during my years of eating tofu for breakfast every day, things, I didn't feel good, but it wasn't PMS. It was fatigue and brain symptoms and just total exhaustion all the time and achiness and joint problems, but I didn't have symptoms. So the point of sharing all that is a lot of the problems that can be going on in your body, oxalates or not, but especially with oxalate, can be silent. You can be falling apart and not know. I mean, no doctor said we should check you for endometriosis, but I clearly had it. You know, so thank God
it's so frustrating.
Torture me that way, but in the meantime, I still didn't feel good. Life was still horrible. So if you're living well and doing right by your body and you don't feel good, something's up. It's not that you're born to feel bad. You're not supposed to be suffering day in and day out and have these problems. That's a sign that you still haven't figured out that something about your lifestyle and your background is dogging you still.
How can people, I think this is a good segue from that. How would women and men, obviously because there's men that watch this too, but how would women start to understand that this is what's going on when they, what would you say is the way to begin to understand that it's really the oxalates, it's phthalates, it's all these mycotoxins that are in the body from all the food you're eating? How would they begin to understand that's what it is versus just the unknown, you know, well, there's nothing wrong with you. You're just going to have to deal with that for the rest of your life, because we've all heard that, ladies, right? How would they begin to truly understand, like, who would they go to? What kind of, is there testing? Is there a way to understand that this is what's going on?
Well, first of all, you need to have an understanding about your oxalate exposure, right? You need to know enough about oxalate in foods to be able to say whether or not you eat a lot of oxalates or not. So if you learn that, first of all, then you can start to think about your diet history and your choices over the years, because it really is a long, slow, basically a long, slow poisoning that we do. So if you grew up on a lot of peanut butter, potato chips, French fries, mashed potatoes, baked potatoes, if you love to go get the chili on the potato at Wendy's or whatever, you know, if you think back to like your favorite lunch when you started your career, right?
Oh my gosh, I can't believe you brought that up. I forgot I ever ate that.
Remember that?
Wendy's chili. Oh my
Wendy's
gosh.
chili on potatoes. That was so big in the late 80s and the early 90s. Like it was a quick, easy $1.50 lunch or something, you know, really cheap. And it seemed like real food. I mean, chili on potatoes was a nice solid lunch, and you could get cheese on it and it would help. But you know, that's a big baked potato every day, and those Idaho Baker potatoes and the russet potatoes, they're the highest oxalate of all the potatoes. And those of us who loved, do you remember
I can't even believe I forgot that.
You go out to a bar and you'd order potato skins, and it would have melted cheese on them and bacon bits, and that was really big starting in like 1980. I don't know if that's still a thing. It probably is.
I don't know. I haven't had anything like that in 20 years. I don't know.
But the skin is the highest oxalate plus all the other toxins that are in potatoes. I mean, it might taste good. It's a great way to hold cheese and bacon, but it's oxalate, you know. So just in the way we grow up with peanut butter sandwiches and M&Ms and then chocolate at every holiday, starting with Halloween, and, you know, it just keeps going year round. You know, Valentine's Day and Easter are great excuses for more chocolate. I mean, and now chocolate's so famously great for you that people are going as dark as they can. So, you know, do you have a background of liking your peanut M&Ms? Were you a peanut fan? Did you like to grab nut snacks or the special smoked almond, you know, whatever it was in the day? And now you can see nowadays we've had 10 years of pushing the spinach smoothie, and now the last 5 years with keto going big and people using nuts as a substitute for grain products. And then we had the whole wheat thing for, you know, from the early
Oh my
80s.
gosh, I want to say that was like the 80s, right? That's been
Yeah.
since like the 80s. I remember as a, new mom and all the things that I would think about back then, like early 90s, and be like, no white bread anymore.
Yeah.
And
Yeah. Except the other thing that was popular at that time was the bagel. The bagel was getting really big. It used to just be a New York City thing and, a big city thing, or places where historically a lot of Jewish people live. But then in around 1980 or so, the bagel got democratized and everybody got into bagels. And bagels are fine, except that one of the two favorite flavors of bagels have sesame seeds or poppy seeds on them, which are really high oxalate foods. So even your lousy white flour bagel has got oxalates glued to them, right?
right.
So there's a lot of little subtle ways. What?
I said, you can't escape them.
No, it's in our culture, you can't, because we do fundamentally have a plant-based diet. And, there's been a long history of promoting grains and beans and, fiber. And now it's okay to have nuts. I mean, during the anti-fat craze, the mainstreamers and people like Center for Science and the Public Interest were down on nuts for a long time because they were fatty.
Right.
But then all of a sudden, the fat police relented on nuts and said, nuts in reasonable portions are okay. They're healthy fats. Well, they're actually not healthy fats. They're the kind of fats that dissolve your mitochondria. These are PUFAs. These are polyunsaturated fatty acids, and they work like solvents, and they dissolve membranes. That's what a mitochondria is, and they're not good.
Not good.
So, yeah, they're high in fat. Fat's great if it's animal source and not the seed oils, but it's just more seed oils. And that's the other problem, of course, is from the junk food side, is we've been comfortable with oleomargarine and Crisco shortening all since the 1930s. And then it got into like corn oil margarine and corn oil everything. And now canola oil has been big for the last 20 years. And it's like,
it's crazy.
None of that is normal human food. So you have that background also interrupting your metabolic health, and then throw in a lot of toxins from your oxalate foods. Not so good. So you can see why, just from a PUFA standpoint and oxalate, almonds and peanuts, which are very high in oxalate with bioavailability, the kind of oxalate that you absorb easily and gets into your body, plus they're PUFAs, plus they're prone to mold. They already contain other seed anti-nutrients and are pretty toxic.
And your body doesn't know what to do with them. Right, but your body doesn't know what to do with them. I think people need to understand that too. All the PUFAs, your body doesn't know what to do with. It's not like your cells are like, ooh, I want that. It has to decide how to use it. And that's what ends up helping the whole process of destroying your mitochondria, because your mitochondria aren't meant to take them in. They're not meant to utilize that. And that's what you guys need to understand. So let's give them a way to, how do I know? Because a lot of people are like, well, how do I know it's oxalates? That's one of their big questions. How do I know that it's oxalates? And is this oxalate dumping and oxalate thing really a thing? I'm here to tell you yes, but you go ahead and fill it in on.
So it's, the reason I mentioned my female problems are so silent is because sometimes you don't know that there's a thing happening to begin with. So how do you know it's oxalate if you don't even know it's happening? So, there's lots of layers where this is going to be hard. So if you want a really simplistic kindergartner's answer to life and biology, you're in the wrong aisle, because oxalate isn't simplistic. It's not for baby thinkers. You have to be open-minded enough and think about it and learn to observe for yourself, be patient with it, and stick with the concept long enough. So you're learning that you shouldn't be eating all these almonds and peanuts and potatoes. These are all plants, right? It's, if you eat plants that have a lot of these grains and seeds and so on, it's pretty high oxalate if you loved your potatoes. So we've established that. So you look back, okay, yeah, we grew up on oxalates, and then they're more and more popular, and you might have done this spinach smoothie thing or the spinach salad thing or something like that. So, okay, you had a lot of oxalates. So now you think about your health. So the original diagnosis for oxalate poisoning from the 1850s, included, first of all, you have digestive problems. All right, now this makes sense in many ways, because your digestive tract is the first thing that is exposed to the oxalates, starting with your lips and mouth. And even too much in your mouth, some people notice the kind of burning that comes with sorrel or spinach, or they'll notice this sort of crystalline feel, or the coating on your teeth that Swiss chard does. That could be the tannins, but it could also be the oxalates sticking to the calcium on your teeth, because the oxalate goes for calcium, right? So it's drawn to where the calcium, so you might get some funky. Some people think spinach feels sandy in their mouth. Not because it's sandy, because they've washed it thoroughly, and now you buy spinach, it rarely has sand in it anymore. Back when we were kids and growing up, you had to really wash your spinach, but it's all triple washed now. But it still gets that slightly kind of gritty texture. That could be the oxalate crystals forming from the calcium in your food or your teeth or somewhere. So, all right, so you're eating high oxalate foods. You may have a digestive problem. And that goes in both directions. This is a chicken and egg problem. The oxalates are quite damaging to the digestive tract potentially. And when you have a damaged digestive tract, you absorb more oxalates and you get into more trouble. So if you've had leaky gut, if you've had allergies, if you've had gut inflammation, irritable bowel syndrome, Crohn's disease, these kinds of things, if you've had even surgery to your gut, bariatric surgery, your absorption of oxalate is high. So then you become what's called a hyperabsorber of oxalate if you've got gut problems. But it was the oxalate that gave you the gut problems to begin with. So, you know, gut problems. If you got that, then you should suspect that oxalate could be a player, maybe. And then once it gets into your system, the first organ it hits, besides your vascular system and your inside of your gut, is your liver. Mm. Everything you absorb from your food.
That's why a lot of people end up having gallbladder issues. And some people will try and blame the ketogenic diet, a high-fat diet, on their gallbladder, but it's really not. It's the oxalates attacking it.
The almond flour, the keto spinach. Keto people love their spinach, their nut butters, their fat bombs, and their almond
sweet
flour.
Potatoes. And yes. Yeah.
That's very paleo. A lot of people who go paleo go to the sweet potato. That was my best friend for years. I loved them. I didn't want to let them go. I grow them. So your liver, okay, you got the gallbladder issue. So you could have waffling ability to deal with fats when you're trying to eat and digest fats because your poor gallbladder is getting congested and getting damaged. But the liver itself is using a fair amount of its own glutathione and antioxidants just to protect itself from the oxalates on every meal and every snack.
Oh, wow.
So some of us get into chemical sensitivity, and then going to the mall or taking your shoes in for shoe repair and going to that toxic shoe place. Oh my gosh. I mean, I used to go to Walmart back when I was coming off of the vegan thing, and I'd go in there and I'd forget why I was there. Like the chemicals in the air were so toxic to my brain. All the plastics and packaging and all stuff that's in Walmart would literally, I couldn't remember why I was there. One time I couldn't remember where the front of the store was. I couldn't tell. I got so disoriented. I didn't know front to back. And it was the most weird, surreal thing. And that's in my heyday of really bad chemical sensitivity. And then I realized that's really gone away on the low oxalate diet. My liver is not being flooded by a liver toxin with every meal anymore. So on that side, on the intake of oxalate side, the liver is much happier. Hey, you need a liver, people. You need a digestive tract and you need a liver. And both of them can be getting in trouble. So the next place the oxalate goes, after you absorb it and it goes through the liver and touches almost every cell in the liver, because the liver's job is to clean the blood, right? Mm-hmm. And to pull out the excess nutrients and store the nutrients and process things and process the fats and turns them into chylomicrons. And the liver is amazing, all the stuff it does. It's really cool. But then the blood, so in order to do that cleaning, every cell in the liver is being flooded through these sinusoids with what's just come out of your food.
Wow.
So it's very intimate contact that the soluble oxalate that you've absorbed is having with your liver cells. And then it goes up through the inferior vena cava, which is a blood vessel, big blood vessel that connects your liver to your heart. And it passes through the diaphragm. Okay. Now, interesting thing about the diaphragm, that's the muscle that helps you, that does the breathing for you. It goes up and down, and as it goes down, it opens the lungs and air passively is sucked in through a vacuum. You inhale. and then it relaxes and you push out your exhale. That diaphragm, have you ever had hiccups?
Yes.
Yeah. So hiccups is a spasm of the diaphragm. So either the nerves or the muscles, something's going on with the diaphragm where you get hiccups. Well, I was fascinated to learn when I was doing, well, I still do the research, but as I've been reading the research on oxalates, when the rats are about to die in the oxalate study, hiccups is the last symptom that shows up before they die. That's also true with these emergency cases with oxalate poisoning. People will deliberately take in soaps that contain oxalic acid as a suicide effort. And hiccuping is one of the last symptoms before the patient dies if they don't survive that suicide attempt.
Wow.
So I used to get hiccups at
Wait a minute.
bedtime.
Let's pause for that. That's a big deal. I mean, I hope everybody understands that this plays mentally on your brain so much because your gut is 100% directed to your brain. They're connected. And when your gut's not working right, your brain's not working right. And that's why depression and anxiety, and we could even go as far as suicide, because when the gut's not working correctly, your brain can't function correctly, and you're not going to make the best decisions. That's huge, Sally. That's a really big one for people to understand. And that's why I think people get stuck in the addiction module, like they get stuck in this cycle, that vicious cycle that we have because of the carbs and the sugar cycle and what it's doing and how it's bypassing and going through things. And it's just such a crazy cycle. They can't get out of it, and they don't understand why. It's until you can hear what we're saying that you need to eliminate that so that the brain has time to heal, because the gut's healing. You don't heal the gut, you can't heal your brain. They just work together. Wow, that's really big.
Well, the toxicity is big. I mean, the only two things that really destroy your physiology are toxins and malnutrition. Okay, so it's either deficits, deficiencies, or toxins. But in our world, it's both all the time. And oxalate causes deficiencies. Our vegan background caused deficiencies. Our, boxed breakfast cereals we were raised on causes deficiencies, even though they're fortified with synthetic nutrients. That's, yeah. So, that combination of needing nutrients, your body, your cells are crying out for nutrients, and being toxic is very much at the base of that addiction pyramid, that addiction cycle we get into. And all disease is some combination of toxicity and deficiency. Without deficiencies, you're not going to get infections. Your body has the right, and without toxins, you'll have the right pH, and your body can work if it's well nourished. And well nourished, non-toxic people are hardy and good thinkers, and are not nut jobs who want to whip out a gun and kill their people on the bus they're riding. It's just, you don't see that humanity is a cooperative species. We want to love each other. We want to get along. We want to enjoy each other. We want to have feasts together. We want to, pull food in together and cooperate, especially women. Women are just built to love, care, and nourish and nurture and be protective. And so we have a strong kinship as human beings. We want to protect each other. And yet you see all this unhappiness in the human family, all this constant not getting along at every level, within your household, within your marriage, within your neighborhood, within your political party, within your country, between countries. We're just stirring the pot. So, that's just more evidence of our dissatisfaction. And I think our fundamental dissatisfaction in life comes from being malnourished and poisoned.
Yeah, when you don't have the vital nutrients that you need, everybody, and this is what you guys need to understand too, because this is a big deal for Sally and I, you only are as healthy as you're absorbing. So when your intestinal villi are no longer working as they should to help get rid of the bad things, and they naturally do that. So like if there's like bad things in your food, your villi knows to take care of it. You don't have to get food poisoning. Like people who are really healthy and have a healthy biome and their gut works properly, you don't get food poisoning, very rarely, because the gut knows how to take care of it. But when your villi no longer separated and no longer flowing, no longer working, you have digestive issues. And once that happens, you're no longer absorbing the vital nutrients. I don't care if you eat broccoli all day long, you're most likely not absorbing what you need. So until you understand that fact, it's hard to go to the fact that Sally and I are talking about, that oxalates cause such a big problem in your body. And no matter what you're eating, if you're not absorbing it, you're not getting healthy. And that's why a lot of people stay, they could be keto, I don't care, paleo, Whole30, whatever it is, SIBO diet, all these different AIP diets, all the diets, you could be all those things and not get healthy. It's because you never took the time to eliminate what needs to be eliminated so the body could truly heal. I'm not saying you have to be that way forever, the complete elimination diet forever, but you need to give the body a chance to heal in the digestive tract. It takes a little bit of time to heal because it's been so damaged. I forget what the time period is, but like how many months is, I forget. It's a long time for the digestive tract to heal. I don't remember the exact number. Do you know it?
Well, there's not a number, and with oxalate problems, down in the colon is functioning as an excretion route for oxalate. When your system goes acidic because it's overwhelmed with oxalate clearing or other problems, it's deficient in enough, acid squelching molecules, or when the kidneys are feeling overwhelmed and they're not quite able to handle the load of oxalate and so on, or drugs and the other things as well. But when the kidneys are in overload and they can't handle the oxalate load, then it turns on these excretors in the colon. So the colon becomes an excretion site as well, in addition to the kidneys. It gets turned on and off. And so that is traffic. I mean, you're basically trafficking in something that sort of functions like asbestos, or like maybe you might think of it as like radioactivity, like think of The Simpsons with the radioactivity. Like you don't want to be handling a lot of radioactive stuff. To a cell, an oxalate crystal and an ion are kind of like that. So if you're in the business of handling, radioactive materials, it's not that it's radioactive, but it might as well be, because it's so damaging to the mitochondria, the DNA, to the cell structure, to the cell function. Cells have to die in the process of functioning as handlers. So I like to think it's like the soldiers who went off to the Civil War, they just died for the cause. And that's what cells are troopers, and they'll do what they need to do, but they'll probably sacrifice themselves in the process. So your gut isn't going to heal quickly. Not when it's got to do this kind of work. It's perpetually getting additional damage. Now, I've had some clients and friends who did have severe problems, like chronic diarrhea that was so bad it was basically constant for a decade. 3 days after she learned to eat, get rid of the oxalate, it cleared up. She was having peanut butter on toast for breakfast. She was packing almonds and mixed nuts with sometimes a little peanut M&Ms mixed in for fun as a snack in the car.
Yep.
She would, what did she do for lunch? I think she always tended to have a spinach salad for lunch. She would make 2 of those baggies of nut mixes, one for the afternoon, one for the morning, because she would get a big box of stuff from Costco. We could buy this like 5-pound plastic crate of almonds.
Right.
And go to Costco at least every 10 days to fuel up on more almonds. And then for dinner, she'd go out and order potatoes as part of her dinner. So she had surgery. She had her gallbladder removed. She had several scopes. They started telling her she needed to take a bike ride and relax, and tell her to go away, because she'd come back and say, the surgery didn't work and it's still happening, and I'm still carrying diapers and pooping on myself in the store, and stuff is happening. And it only took her 3 days of stopping with the almonds and the spinach and the peanut butter. And she's now, within a week, she's like having normal bowel movements again. And every time she goes off the wagon, so to speak, and has some sweet potatoes or something, it comes back.
That's right.
So, that's unusual that you get such a quick fix to gut health, because she had neurological damage. She couldn't feel it. She couldn't control it in the rectum. That whole area was damaged, but it rebounded very quickly, which is pretty amazing.
That's a really good thing. Everybody need to hear that. That's not typical for everybody, but when you do remove the toxins from your body and you're no longer putting them in it, the body knows what it's supposed to do. It's this innate system. It just knows. And if you allow it a break, that's why I think carnivore works so well for so many people, because it literally just eliminates everything that can cause the problem.
Yeah. You're not It's not
Right.
you that's defective, it's your lifestyle that's defective. And we've all agreed socially that it's an okay lifestyle, but it doesn't work. And yeah, what did you just say? The you just said something I wanted to follow up on.
Which part? About the digestive tract healing?
Yeah, well, anyway, we'll get back to that. The thing is, you may or may not get immediate results like that. For me, my digestive function was what got me into carnivore. Like, I kept whittling down. I realized halfway in, a couple years after I went low oxalate, I'm still trying to eat a lot of vegetables. So for one Thanksgiving, I roasted a duck and made all kinds of side dishes. I was so proud of them, all the things you could do with roasting cool radishes and, but basically it was a lot of cabbage family stuff, just different shapes and types, and it made for a beautiful plate of food. But I was quite sick the rest of the day and felt bad for 2 more days. And I thought, that was just too many vegetables. So then I started cutting way down and realized that my chronic constipation would go away if I quit eating all those vegetables. So I got all the way down to just my lemon juice, which helps you clear out oxalate, and my coconut products, a little bit of coconut water. We buy fresh coconuts now and then. And so I basically had 3 foods: meats, which was mostly pork and beef, plus lemon juice, plus various versions of coconut. And that was my diet. And I did really well on that. And then in April 1st last year, in 2019, I just cut those out and the supplements just to do the carnivore experiment, because the carnivores had discovered me. And I'm like, okay, I got to know the full deal and see what it does for me.
That's
And
right.
that was interesting because I felt better without the lemon juice for me. I felt like the inflammation in my neck and face went way down. It's one of my signs I can tell when my system is inflamed and struggling at this age of almost 56. I see this age show up right here. And
That's
like
right.
from here to here, a place you don't want to see your age. You'd rather your age was in your ass or something, but I'm right here.
And how many people out there would say the same thing? Can it be on my backside, please? Oh my gosh. So funny.
Vanity never stops. Vanity never stops. I had a neighbor in her 80s, and she was vain enough that when she was dying in the hospital of cancer, she wouldn't let anybody come see her like that. So.
Oh my gosh. All right, well, that's a perfect segue. I want to touch on, I did a review of your cookbook, but I want people to hear from you why it's so important. I think that, so I'm just going to show everybody, and Sally has it obviously with her, but you guys, there's a reason that I believe that you need this book. Number one, many of you that are watching are struggling. You would not be starting the carnivore journey. You wouldn't be starting the keto journey if you weren't struggling. I have goosebumps right now because I'm so passionate. If we can just help one person every single time that we come on here to open your eyes so that you can heal your body naturally, I would be thrilled. Help 100, I would be ecstatic. Help thousands, I will be jumping up and down. And that's just the way I feel about it. Because if I can help one woman not feel how I felt for 20 years, I want to do that. And so does Sally. And this cookbook that she wrote just allows us, all of us, people, not Sally, but it helps all of us get a little bit into her mind and be able to do it easily without feeling stressed to go through the process. So why do you feel so proud of it, Sally? Because I just think it's really well done. Thank you, by the way.
Well, I love to cook. I've been good in the kitchen for a very long time. I know my first dishes were actually TV dinners when I was like 6 or 7 years old. My mother was working. But to me, they weren't good enough. They didn't have green vegetables in them. So I would open a can of peas and heat up peas and make everybody eat peas. Of course, the first time I did that, I didn't know anything about cooking because I was like 6 or 7 years old. So I drained the water off the peas. I know my mother drained the water off the peas. I just didn't realize she did it after they were heated. So I burned the peas because I put them in the pot with the water. But that's how young I was and interested in serving vegetables. So, during my vegan years, I was really creative. I made the greatest like silk chocolate pie with tofu. and the best stuffed shells with tofu. And like, I could turn tofu into the most amazing foods. And I would impress myself, and everybody who eats my food likes it. So I always thought I was writing a cookbook. I had an entire file drawer of files that I had clipped of vegan and vegetarian recipes. And when I finally dumped the veganism, I took all those files and I took it over to the house of the local vegan leader and gave them to him and said, here, you have these. I don't want anything to do with this anymore. You know, so back in my mind, I felt like, you know, I've got a cookbook in me somewhere. And then with the oxalate, the first thing that happens on oxalate is like, well, what the heck do you eat? Like, I don't know what to do with the turnip. Yeah, sure, turnips low, but who eats turnips? They're horrible. I hate them. You know, I thought I hated these foods, the low oxalate, because I didn't know what to do with it because I didn't like them. The first rutabaga I ever ate was at my in-laws' house on Thanksgiving. They're from New England, and in Maine and Massachusetts, the rutabaga is a prized vegetable that they have
yes,
at Thanksgiving and stuff. And I was like, oh, I had it that first time. I was like, you guys like this? Like, I'm a vegetable lover, and I didn't like rutabaga. So I went on the journey because I'm still the vegetable nut. The first several years on low oxide, I still wanted a plate full of vegetables because, yeah, I've constipation. Don't you need all this fiber and vegetables? And you need to fill up and not feel hungry. My big thing is eat, eat, eat. Don't feel hungry, you know? So I developed a lot of recipes with the low oxalate foods in my own kitchen. And mostly I'm a cook by instinct and not a recipe follower. And that's also hard for me to discipline myself to turn what I do into a recipe. And like, you mean I have to give you amounts? You put in the right amount, you know, that works. You know, like I know how to do that. But now you want me to give it to you in teaspoons and cups and stuff. So I made an effort to try to, you know, document what I do and turn them into recipes and type them. And that turns out to be like a ton of work, surprisingly. It's really a pain to do. And then
cookbooks are not easy. So everybody who thinks it's easy, it's not easy to write a cookbook.
It's a huge manual with all these weird fonty things, you know, so I'm doing it. It's very homemade. I mean, this is a homemade scratch cooking of a cookbook. But it's right now I've got 181 recipes in there with some photos and a real variety, because I think people, it's for people that know they have problems with food and probably are gluten intolerant and need to be on a gluten-free diet, who might have an egg allergy. The eggs in the book are confined to one little section so that if you have an egg allergy, most of the book is good for you. Both me and my husband have egg allergies. I have a wheat allergy and very strict about that. There were times in the past I thought I had a problem with milk, which I don't really. It's just certain processed milks and commercial milk that's the problem. Real milk isn't. So anyway, this cookbook is got a lot of seasonings and sauces, so you can make really interesting foods and really, you know, be as restaurant-y and fascinating as you want. A lot of those things will keep for a week or more in the refrigerator, so it makes it easy to start throwing plates of food together, because you can have different sauces on hand or different leftovers that work well as a leftover and throw together interesting food. And most of my recipes are very short. They have minimal spices, because if you're using proper fresh ingredients and enough fat.
Hold on one second. Around the back. Around the back. Mm-hmm. Trying to tell someone not to knock on my door. Go ahead. Sorry about that.
It's good you're there. You can see them coming. So the seasonings are really simplistic. I mean, there's basically 5 seasonings in my cookbook. So you could really clean out your spice drawer and live without, but there's some other principles with low oxalate. You know, outside carnivore is an elimination diet that's very helpful and very therapeutic and works for a lot of people, but it doesn't work for a lot of people as well. And a lot of people visit carnivore for the therapeutic value and then want to move on to something else. They also have family members and holidays and social events where everybody's omnivore and there's a lot of diversity and there's a lot of social expectations, and you don't necessarily want to stick out so far that you're the talk of the day. You don't necessarily want to be the centerpiece of everything because your diet is so weird. Well, this cookbook gives you options for giving your sweetie that big pile of mushed white stuff that looks and satisfies like potatoes but isn't. There's like 5 different ways to do that in this cookbook. So if you still want to have some diversity in your diet, or think you might later if you're already carnivore, if you just need another option, or if you're trying to help your family, this is a way to get just sort of shortcut. You don't have to go through all the learning and
I think it's great
experimentation.
for parents. I think it's great for parents who have kids. I think it's a great way to not have your kid be a carnivore, or, you know, a keto kid that's on a high oxalate keto diet. This is a great way to start to cook for your kids. Great way to pack lunches for them. Great way to make things that they're going to love without knowing that you're hurting them, right? Because none of us want to hurt our kids. None of us want to be doing that. And meanwhile, we have all of our kids eating nuts and seeds. We have all of our kids eating almond flour, everything. We have all of our kids doing all these things. These keto kids are doing all these things that are hurting us. Well, we're doing the same thing to them, and it affects their hormones. So that's basically what I said when I was doing my review of it, Sally, is that this helps us help others that we love. Like, it's a great way for all the people who aren't going to be carnivore, for all the people who keto did not work for you. This is a great way to do a lifestyle, because I don't even like to call them diets. Do a lifestyle that's going to help your body heal, because ultimately that's what the name of the game is. It's not about weight loss. I'm going to say it every video for the rest of my life. It's not about weight loss. Even if you have 300 pounds to lose, you don't have to focus on weight loss. As you heal the body, the fat will naturally come off. The body's innate thing first is to heal. So we want to give you healing foods. That's why Sally wrote that cookbook. She wants you to have healing foods, healing recipes, and for you not to have to worry about it. So I just think it's exactly what's needed right now, because there's people who are confused. Do I have to be carnivore to heal? Not necessarily. I think personally, everybody should take 30 days and give their body a break and be a carnivore for 30 days. I truly do. I think some people need 90 days on it, because the body won't even have the right receptors to tell you that that food triggers you. There's some people that need to be carnivore for 6 months or longer, because the body needs time to heal, because it has been so broken from what you've done for 5 years, 10 years, 20 years, 40 years, 60 years, whatever it is, that you need the time to heal. Then I believe that this is the exact cookbook that's going to help you slowly keep the body in the healing movement towards the right way, and you're not going to have to feel stuck on what do I eat. It gives you complete variety without you feeling, what do I eat that's good for me? Here you go. Here's what you eat.
Yeah, and fundamentally it starts with self-compassion.
Amen.
Picking on yourself for your weight problem or whatever, and it's not just what you've eaten or how you've lived or the choices you've made that's put your health where it is. It's actually a 3-generation process that's making us all sick. And of course, there's big things in the environment, or just sometimes the school air at the front of the schools is so toxic, because these people are driving their child 1 mile and the buses are there, and it's like there's so many things that we do that are toxic or malnourishing, or a deficit, being indoors all the time. There's just a lot of things that make it hard on your body. So just being sympathetic to your body and to your own personal struggle for getting out of the various addictions and problems. I mean, some people are addicted to air fresheners and things like that. That's just for neurotoxicity. Perfumes. I cannot convince people that this is a form of unkindness to all of us who have to smell your cheap perfumes. I'm having trouble at the gym, because in the morning, all those people who are in the morning gym people, they dress up for work, and they're all spritzing like 6 products on themselves in the gym in this confined space, and I don't see a lot of fans and a special air system to save the rest of us. So those of us who have the history of the oxalate damage are probably more sensitive to those toxic fragrances that go from your nose to your brain really quickly. I mean, it's really there.
Quickly. That's right, really quickly.
So there's a lot of places where a little bit of reform and stepping back from the way things are can be an emotionally difficult process. And I'm hoping that, for people who want recipes, or are willing to cook at home, man, you're my people. And a lot of people don't want to cook at home, but there's stuff in here that's barely cooking. It's like, open a can of fish and do this to it. That's anybody can do that. And there's a lot of super simple stuff there. So you don't necessarily have to be afraid of your kitchen phobia either. If you're not really a cook, there's enough stuff in it. But if you're a really great cook, there's some much more gourmet things in there as well.
Absolutely.
But
So I just want to say,
heart is home. Be nice to yourself. The heart of self-love is feeding yourself well.
that's right. Self-care and love comes from you taking care of yourself and being nice to yourself. So we're going to come back again. We'll do another one in March or April, whatever. We'll come back and do another one because honestly, guys, this topic is so vast because there's so many things that we could cover about what oxalates do to you, what causes oxalate problems. We'll share more about different things that I've gone through with oxalate dumping. I just experienced a stomach rash and skin rash, and then I had a complete dumping, and how did that affect my body? You'll have symptoms sometimes right before your body's going to oxalate dump, and then your body feels better afterwards because all it wanted to do was get rid of the oxalates. And it takes time. I'm 7 months carnivore. It's taken 7 months for me to get to the point where my body finally wanted to just release a whole bunch of oxalates. So I feel incredible afterwards, but just know that you're going to have, it comes in waves. Healing comes in waves. Every 4 months, the blood's all changing itself and organs regenerate. So you're going to have waves of healing. Give yourself grace as you go through the healing. Don't give up when you have the hard days, right, Sally? Like, you're going to have hard days, push through them, keep going, and know it's normal to have the hard days, the hard weeks, and you're going to have a breakthrough and you're going to feel better afterwards.
Yeah, one thing about that is you want to be especially nice to yourself when you feel bad, and you want to recognize that sometimes feeling bad is what healing is all about, and that you're going to get knocked flat on your bottom side a few times, or you might suddenly start getting arthritis somewhere. That's one of the symptoms that happen. Do not start catastrophizing and telling yourself it's not working, I'm falling apart, I'm getting old, I'm going to need surgery, because the neurotoxic brain is great at going negative really fast. When you're healing, you're more vulnerable to negative thinking. So try not to go with the negative thinking. Try to go, honey, I need to put you to bed. Let's go take a nap. Sometimes that's the best answer.
That's it. Drink some more water, move your body, get into a sauna and let it sweat out. Let the sweat help you get it out, and you're going to feel better. I wanted to say thank you again. Yes, thank you again.
Phil. It's so fun to see you on your journey. I never get tired of this. Like you say, whenever anyone starts getting better on low oxalate, it puts a lump in my throat, and sometimes I get so emotional I almost feel stressed out, because it's so exciting that through our own suffering we can pass it on and salvage a few other lives.
That's right. And we both have endured a lot. I just said this in a video I did the other day with someone. Strong women don't happen overnight. It's because we've had to endure a lot to get to where we are. We're sharing our mess is becoming your message of hope. So I truly do hope, ladies, that you will continue to share our videos with people, because you never know what might spark something in somebody for them to feel better and begin their own healing journey. You can join my group. It's an all-ladies group. It's called You Only Better on Facebook. I have a 30-day guide that's on my website. I have the best keto cheesecake recipe. It was pinned 2 million times. You can get that off of my website. It is legitimately the best keto recipe out there for cheesecakes. And I'm not just saying it. So I hope that you will join us in this journey. Follow Sally. I have all of her links underneath this video for you guys. Buy her cookbook. You will be thankful that you did. If you're not going to use it for yourself, you could use it for your family members. Every holiday, whatever, you can help other people learn. Cook new things. Challenge yourself, right, Sally? Challenge yourself to do better. Know better, do better is my motto. So everybody, you know better, now you can do better. Have a great, 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 great day, everybody.
Fabulous. Bye.